slow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. So, every Friday, welcome. Every Friday we do our Edge Live Q&A where we, meaning the Edge team, we have a live Q&A where we respond to your questions and comments on the air. Today it's me, Kylan Hurt, a developer, and I am joined by the chief architect at Edge, Mr. William Swanson. How's it going, William?
Good. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's always fun doing this on Fridays. It's just almost to the weekend, and this is a nice way to cap off the work week, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah, so we got quite a few questions here. Do you have the questions up right now, William?
I do indeed have the questions.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's take it away. So also, before we start, for those of you who have any questions or comments you want to throw our way, please feel free to send them our way. We are live on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube. If you look up Edge or Edge Secure on Twitter, you should be able to find us. So go ahead and like the page, share it, upvote it, and like I said, throw some comments our way.
All right. So, where is the rest of our team this weekend?
They are up. Let's see here. So most of them are up in San Francisco, right? I think there's the Distributed 2018 conference is in San Francisco, and Peter, Paul, and Brett, so our CEO, one of our customer service representatives, and our biz dev manager is up there. So they are spreading the good word of Edge Wallet and getting out into the community. So if you happen to be visiting the Distributed 2018 conference up in San Francisco, feel free to stop by the booth, right?
Well, what kind of swag do they have?
Oh, God, I got to say, if there's one thing that we're good at, and we're good at more than one thing, but it's our swag. We get a lot of compliments. I would specifically recommend the shirts. These shirts are like incredibly comfortable. They're the type that you can wear around. You can wear them as pajamas. We get lots of compliments. They run out quick. So if you have access to them, you're gonna want to get them while you still can.
Awesome.
What kind of swag do you like out of all the stuff? I mean, we got the carabiners, we got the pens. The little pins are good too.
Yeah, I do like the pens. They're all over the office. Like, they're just good to write with. I felt like the last batch was especially smooth. I agree with the pajama thing. The shirts are super comfy.
Yeah, let's see here. All right, so what's the next question we got here?
Well, so who's talking at this conference? Like, what's it about?
Yeah, I did recognize some of the names. Let's see what we got here.
Well, I see.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead. I'll let you start answering it.
Yeah. So there's a guy on our list called David Chom, and it looks like he invented eCash, which was like years before Bitcoin existed. There was something called eCash, which was attempting to be what Bitcoin did, but they didn't have the concept of proof of work yet, so it didn't quite work exactly correctly. But
right.
So this old school like guy from even before Satoshi tried to get Bitcoin to exist, but didn't, failed, and then now it exists. So that's really cool to see. Like, old school cryptographers are now coming back into the space that they kind of pioneered, but then saw other people complete.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually, I read a good book that was about the history of cryptocurrency. And he talked about I guess you could say, the precursors. So I know there's some stuff by Adam Back. He did some email related stuff, and kind of Satoshi was was the person or persons who tied it all together. And it's cool seeing a lot of those cryptographers who actually built some of the precursors are still active, like you said.
Yeah. Well, Adam Back's the CEO of Blockstream. I mean, he's like the guy in charge of Bitcoin BTC. So
yeah, and he's I guess you could call him a little bit of a controversial figure.
Well, yeah, he seems like a really nice guy. Like, everything he says is really calm, and he's not going to insult you, right? But just kind of look at him like, some of the things you just said didn't quite make sense.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the scaling debate, I don't know if anyone makes complete sense.
No.
And there's always any words that get mentioned by anyone with influence get very much dissected. Yeah, so speaking of scaling, Elizabeth Stark will be speaking at the Distributed 2018 conference, and she is essentially the leader of, was it Lightning Labs, correctly, right?
Yeah, it's a company that's building a Lightning implementation.
Yeah, so that would actually be pretty interesting. And of course, I assume Paul is speaking, right?
I would hope Paul's speaking. I don't know if he's on the agenda or not.
Okay. Well, even if he's not giving an actual presentation, he is the type of guy who makes himself readily available. So if you do stop by the booth and you see him, go ahead and say hi. Say hi to any of our team members. We're very friendly.
I also got Joey Krug, co-founder of Augur, who have launched now.
That's big news, yeah.
So we talked about that last time, but Augur is a decentralized prediction market. So if you want to know what's the probability of disarmament of North Korea or some political or future event that you don't know, people can predict what the future is going to be, and they put money on their predictions. So you'd expect that the best information should eventually win. That's the concept, at least.
Yeah, and they call them prediction markets. I almost wonder if that's like a euphemism for betting, right?
Betting on arbitrary things.
Yeah. I love it. I love the whole concept. Augur is one of our partners, actually one of our earliest partners, I would say, too, right? So it's hopefully there's some good synergy going between our organization and theirs, and we wish them the best with the launch. It seems like it's going really well so far. If I remember hearing right, I think their token's been going up in price. Not that it's all about price of tokens.
You'd hope it have utility too.
Yeah. Well, now it actually
now
has.
Now it does, because they're launched.
Real
they are an actual ICO that went through the entire process, developed their product, had it tested, and they've now launched. It's off testnet and it's on mainnet, and it's happening.
Yeah, I mean that's been years in the making. So we are cheering them on for sure. Okay, let's see here. So the next question we had: what is the next event that Edge will make an appearance at? So actually, as it turns out, I will be. How would I say this? I'll be going solo. I'll be in Vegas from August 19th to 20th. For the Exotic Dancer Expo. Now, I don't know why they gave me this one, I don't know. They just looked at me and they said, oh, I think Kylan would be the right one to go to this Exotic Dancer conference. So I, begrudgingly will go. But yeah, I will be there at the booth. Like I said, I will be flying solo, so I'll be trying to man the booth for as long as I can. And I would say if you're going to be there, definitely stop by and say hi. If you're an exotic dancer, then definitely make sure you stop by and say hi. Hey, it's Vegas, you know what I mean? Might as well get the Vegas experience.
So I know there's certain industries where traditional banks don't want to touch them. So a big one would be cannabis, right? Like cannabis is now legal in the state of California where we are. So you should be able to open up a business and do business, but unfortunately you can't get a bank account because no one wants to touch you with a 10-foot pole. So cryptocurrency makes a lot of sense for a business that's kind of legal but like not socially acceptable.
Right.
So I'm assuming that this is why they're sending you to this conference.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the connection personally, but
well, yeah, and in general, I think people like more privacy when it comes to their, how would I say it? Their money spending habits that are related to their proclivities, their sexual proclivities. So people don't want other people to be able to see where their money's coming from. I'd hate to say it, but if there's someone in a relationship and they're going to the stripper, they don't want stuff showing up on their debit card saying, "Oh, it was at $100 at strip club galore." I don't know what the names are. I really don't know much about it. So I think they want more privacy as well. But you're right, the banking is probably a big part of it as well.
So I also kind of question, like, what is your thoughts on the morality of Bitcoin? Because obviously Bitcoin can be used for good, right? I can use it to buy coffee and other things that are perfectly morally acceptable, right? But I can also use it to do things that are illegal, right? Like I could pay for the things to be shipped across borders that should not be shipped across borders, but maybe fine, right? There's no problem with shipping a certain species of plant across the border, but it just happens to be super illegal.
Or maybe if we're going to go to the really dark stuff, maybe there's human trafficking and the privacy helps to enable it, right? That would be one of the arguments.
Well, I'm thinking there's things that are illegal but perfectly
fine,
moral, right? Like there's nothing wrong with sending, gold coins across a border, but they just happen to be illegal because the current,
some sort of law.
Some sort of law, right. Things that are immoral but legal, right? Like I don't know. Some people might put cannabis in that category, others might not. Depends how left or right wing you are.
Right.
And then there's things that are definitely both, right?
Yeah.
Like human trafficking is both illegal and like Bitcoin can be used for all of those, and it can also be used for stuff that's legal and moral, like buying coffee. So what do you think about that whole?
Yeah, I think when I came into Bitcoin, there was obviously it started off where the main use case really early on was for the darknet markets, and that's no secret. So it is something where I think looking at the internet as a sort of analogy has helped. And in general, technology by itself is just kind of neutral. It's mostly what do humans do with it. And ultimately, if you believe that humans are a force for good, then you will embrace the technology, and you will help be part of that force for good that helps try to stamp out the bad. But in general, the technology by itself, I'd like to say it's neutral, maybe even good, because in the sense that it pushes science and understanding forward. But yeah, I think the people who like the technology need to put in an effort to help make sure that it is used correctly. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean are we going to pass regulations? That's not really what I'm into or what a lot of people are into, but definitely something where whatever little bit you can do to help to make sure that things like human trafficking or actual real terrorism where innocent people are getting hurt, that sort of stuff isn't getting funded through the technology. What do you think?
I think that's basically kind of how you would have to look at it. I mean, the dollar is used to fund all kinds of illegal and immoral things as well. I mean, if you
yeah, I don't even think you have to give examples on that one.
Yeah, the dollar is the most used currency in the world, so it's used for both good and bad. So should we abandon the dollar? No, but I think as individuals we have a moral obligation to oppose everything that we see being morally unacceptable and promote the things that we see as being morally acceptable.
Yeah, and I will say there are sometimes where I do meet some people who are really into cryptocurrency, and they, when there's sex trafficking or like the really bad stuff, they just throw their hands up and like, kind of not my problem. But the truth is we live in a world where everything's interconnected. So it does affect you some way, no matter how small you think it is. Those sorts of things do creep into our society, even if you're living in a really nice area. So, and let's be honest, there are other humans out there that are going through all sorts of terrible stuff, and they need help. And the people who do have resources, who are in a good place, are the ones that are best equipped to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. So,
let's see here. Do you want to talk about the ETF or?
So I looked at this article briefly. It's basically this organization called CBOE, which is some kind of commodities
Chicago Board of Exchange, I think, something like that.
I don't know if
it's something like that. It's Chicago.
Yeah, CME is the Chicago one.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that stuff goes on in Chicago. It might be. I'm not familiar with CBOE. It's not the one that I've seen often. But so they've petitioned for permission to start something called an ETF.
Right.
For Bitcoin. And you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? That's a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, it is.
So normally, if you go to the stock market, you can't buy Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin on the stock market because it's not a company. You can only buy companies on the stock market.
Okay.
So the idea is, how do we put Bitcoin onto the stock market where ordinary people can buy it like any old stock? And the plan is, make a company whose only purpose is to go out and buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin.
Right.
So you buy ownership of the company then owns the Bitcoin. So you just put Bitcoin on the stock market.
Right.
In the form of this company, whose only purpose is to own the equivalent amount.
Right.
So,
go ahead.
So if the total company's stocks are worth $1 million, that means they got to go out and buy $1 million of Bitcoin. If people buy more of their stock and their stock goes up to 100 million, then they got to go out and buy $100 million of Bitcoin.
So how does that company make a profit then? Are they just assuming the stock price will go up?
So there's a slight fee that's like so they're like 99% invested in Bitcoin.
Yeah, and then they get that 1% like spread almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the big issue I see here is that all of a sudden, okay, so they buy the Bitcoin. It's not just about them buying. They're going to have to secure it.
They're going to have to hold it.
That's the critical part.
Right. And so if you actually look at the article that we have here, we should put this in the show notes at some point. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, it says that they actually talk about how are they going to store the stuff. For backup and disaster recovery purposes, the trust will maintain cold storage wallet backups in locations geographically distributed throughout the United States, including the Northeast and Midwest.
Right.
So they're dealing with private key security. Like that's part of the ETF company's job, as part of holding the Bitcoin, is to figure out a really secure cold storage.
Yeah. So now the question becomes, will they have like audits that publicly people see? Oh, this is how they're storing it. Because if not, then how do you know that you can trust the way they're storing it? But if they give away too much information, then that's a vulnerability. That's a vulnerability.
Right. So it's kind of that trade-off there. So that's why they have to go talk to the SEC, because the SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they regulate this stuff to death. Like it's like super hard to get an ETF started because they're going to make sure, oh, you're doing an oil ETF. Well, where are you going to store the oil? Like, how's that all going to work, right? So if you're doing a Bitcoin ETF, the SEC is going to be all up and down checking everything. So that's why they're applying, and it's not even sure if they'll get it, because if the SEC doesn't like what they're doing, it's game over.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting because a big recurring theme in cryptocurrency is trustlessness, and this just reintroduces trust
Well,
to
I
a certain
mean,
extent.
if you're buying
right?
Bitcoin on the stock exchange, you're not holding your own coin. That's what we
Yeah.
always advocate. Hold your own coin, because if you don't hold it, it's not really yours.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, whoever is this a centralization issue too? You have this company. If all of a sudden there's some scandal because the CEO's doing who knows what, all of a sudden that could start affecting the price. I don't. At least I would think.
Or they get hacked and $100 million of Bitcoin suddenly floods them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, actually,
How are they going to make up that difference? Like,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
stock.
it could be messy. So ETF's not a clean solution, but it does mean that ordinary people with stock trading apps can suddenly invest in Bitcoin. So this could be very good news for the price if enough people come on board and millions and billions of dollars flood in. It could bump the market cap really nicely.
Yeah, that's what people have been saying for a while, and they are trying to reach the traditional investors. So that's kind of what I see here. It's kind of it's a vehicle to try to bring in Granny and Grandpa, so to speak, right? Which is fine because Granny and Grandpa not typically, a lot of them have a lot of money.
and they know how to do stocks. They don't know how to do this weird newfangled cell phone. That maybe not as much. That's not fair to senior citizens. I know there's plenty of very intelligent.
That's very PC of you.
Yes, but I've also helped many people, older women in particular, repair computers when I was in high school. Like everybody, my parents' friends group tended to be older, and they were all like, "Oh, can your son come and fix my email?" And so I've done my fair share of that. So it goes both ways, right? Some people really adapt to it, and some people don't.
Yep.
We've had the privilege of being young enough to just grow up in it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, obviously, as developers, we've embraced it more than the average person.
Well, true. That's true.
Let's see, what else do we have here? You want to take the next
So the question is, what's next in the evolution of money? Because we went from barter, gold, silver coins, paper money, credit cards, and now Bitcoin, right? What's the next step in that evolutionary process?
You want to take this one? I mean, I feel like it's hard. It's hard enough for me to grasp the cryptocurrency thing. It's taken me years to really get to the point where I'm comfortable with it. So for someone to ask what the next step is, I mean, I'd have to stretch my imagination here. What do you think?
So I would say that currency is communication. I think this is an important, right? Because when I give you a piece of paper that says a number on it, I'm not really giving you a thing, right? You can't like take the paper and build something out of it. It's just a piece of paper, but it has information on it that says you now have an abstract concept called a dollar.
Right.
And so information flows and goods flow the other way.
Right.
And even gold coins are a form of information, because it's not like you're going to take the gold coin, melt it down, and build a necklace out of it.
Right. It tells you how much gold is in it, for example.
It does. It tells you that this is worth so much gold, and then because it's worth so much, that's the value it has. And you communicated the value. And if you melted it down, it wouldn't be as useful, because you couldn't just take it to the market and use it the next day.
Right.
So I feel like it's always been information. And so now that it's become pure information in the form of like banks, that it's very natural evolution now that we have the technology to do that. So as long as computers exist, we will have digital cash. So the question is now, is Bitcoin fundamentally different from what goes on in a bank, or is it merely an optimization?
I feel like it certainly makes, maybe this is incorrect, but it certainly seems like cryptocurrency makes something like lending a little bit less likely, or a little bit more nuanced, if that makes sense.
It does. I think what the bank money that we have today is inflationary.
Fractional reserve.
The government prints it out of thin air. Banks can do all kinds of crazy shenanigans with it, and we're never quite sure. Because I went to Subway the other day, and a sandwich there cost $10. I feel like last year it was $6. I don't know what happened. Like they raised but the prices are always going up because the dollar's constantly weakening. And so as a currency, if that continues long enough, the dollar will just kind of evaporate into nothingness.
Right.
Meanwhile, Bitcoin or other cryptos have a fixed finite supply that will never increase.
Right.
So for those currencies, they will have a more stable value. And so when you have a dollar that's kind of evaporating into nothingness, and you've got your Bitcoin account that's staying stable or going up, guess what? Everyone's going to
where are you going to put your money?
Where are you going to put your money, right? So I see them as being an inevitable next step. But they're not fundamentally different, because once we got inside of computers, we just stay inside of computers, and we'll stay inside of computers forever.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a good
Unless
answer.
computers cease to exist.
They could be like, how would you call it?
Get
Like,
your guns and ammo and your emergency bunker ready because the apocalypse is coming.
or if there's like biological computers. I mean, I guess that's what a brain is to a certain
but
extent.
it would still be information.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
no, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
The one thing I would say is I've noticed, and I think this is kind of one of the goals of cryptocurrency in general, is if we're able to get scaling good enough, we could get to the point where micropayments could really become a little bit more of a reality. With the scaling issues we've had with cryptocurrency and trying to get a decentralized network to scale correctly, it seems like micropayments has become almost on the back burner for a little bit. But now that they're trying to figure out scaling, I think that will become a little bit more of a reality. So I could see a world where even the smallest of things, maybe you just smile at someone and they have like this augmented reality and they see that someone smiles at you, and that maybe the fact that I smile at you, like automatically you get sent like a few cents of like whatever, EOS or Bitcoin or whatever it would be, because I think that's just the way that the world works. I mean, because literally the things that you are doing in real life that do add value, if someone makes you smile, shouldn't they be compensated? I mean, because if you're talking about game theory and giving people incentive to behave in a certain way, then you should, even the smallest of gestures could be compensated to help try to.
So you're talking about like some kind of a tipping economy almost.
Yes, kind of like that. Yeah.
And we have, like, I don't know if you're ever on Reddit, right?
Right.
But there's some subreddits where the tipping is very active. Dogecoin is one.
Right.
Bitcoin
Cash is another one.
RBTC is another one, yeah. And those, you make a good comment, you might get $1 or $2. And
Yeah.
it's actually kind of cool because it's like I have, not only do I have an upvote, from Reddit, but I can also, if I really like something, give them an extra oomph to say I really approve of this. So.
Yeah, and that's and the goal would obviously be to make it even more automated, because it's cool to see one person tip, like 50 cents here and there. But then if you had a bunch of people, like every upvote, right, it's like a fraction of a cent, then all of a sudden it starts to actually add up.
Well, so
the more automated it is.
Have you
right?
used yours.org?
I don't quite think so.
So yours.org is like Reddit,
right.
But the upvote button is like costing a couple cents to click.
And that's on which currency do they use?
It's Bitcoin Cash again.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I knew it would probably be Bitcoin Cash, because I think they had like a Twitter too where they were trying to do stuff like that, which is cool because I like to see people pushing the envelope in those sorts of incentive economies, if you will, especially as it relates to social media, because the people who are making, how would I say it, who are big influencers on social media, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, a lot of them are getting defunded, getting banned, and all these terrible things. So cryptocurrency, like literally, I think it is the actual solution to those problems.
Right.
It just takes time to build out.
Right. So the one you mentioned was called memo.cash, and that's a Twitter on the blockchain. So there's no server at all. The messages go straight into the transactions themselves.
Right. So it's quite a bit more immutable as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So once you've put out a tweet, it's never going to be retracted. That data is out there forever.
Yeah, I think some people will like that. Some people won't.
Well, I mean, it's uncensorable though.
Yeah, but it's kind of good though. It makes you think twice before you say something. But then maybe some other people would say that, yeah, well, no, it would make you think twice before you say something.
It's definitely
as you should.
It's a different platform, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's also Steemit, of course. The
right.
So there's lots of platforms I feel like that are doing exactly what you just said, but for content, not for like in-person transactions.
Yeah, I actually heard a rumor. Actually, I don't even know if this is a rumor. I think Dan Larimer and the guys at Block One are actually trying to create like officially Steam 2 or like Steam 2 on EOS.
Oh, okay.
So they're like officially actually trying to come up with a new application, a new what would you call it? Next generation of those sorts of
ideas.
Yeah, which is good because those ideas were great. They're very groundbreaking, I guess you could say, but they haven't aged too well, I guess. So like on Steam, it's like a little bit of an echo chamber. So I think they're going to try to make improvements there, but they're probably at least several months out from actually launching, I would think.
I would expect. I mean, it takes a long time to build software.
Yeah, don't we know? So we actually have a user question from someone on WhatsApp. They asked, how many users do we have at Edge Wallet, and how many wallet downloads?
It's
hard to get exact numbers, but
yeah, because we are kind of anonymous. I don't want to botch this up because I have to do it off of memory. I could go look at our company meeting notes from the last meeting and tell.
Right.
But then actually, so the other thing is we actually realized there was a bug in our logging system, so we don't actually know how many users were created in the past 6 months.
Right.
I mean, we can go through the database and figure it out, but like, we actually weren't properly analyzing that. Like our analytics scripts were all shut down. So
Yeah.
we actually don't know how many users we have right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because we are very privacy oriented, so we're trying not to track our users. But then we do need analytics. We are a business. We need to be able to look at the statistics to make sure that we are running efficiently and that we're getting the sort of how would I say it? The sort of sort of outcomes and results that we're looking for. The one thing I will say is the one statistic I do know is that I think like a little bit more than a month ago on Android, we had passed 50,000 downloads, and it seemed like we had been picking up speed.
I think we're up to 100,000 on Android.
That's what I was about to say. On Android, I would expect us to be either there or passing it really soon, because it does seem like we're picking up speed, which makes sense. We have more cryptocurrency pairs. We're adding features, and in general, I think we've been pretty responsive to the community and our users. So if there's a bug, it gets logged immediately. It gets assigned very rapidly. Because we know if the bug affects one person, that there's a good chance it'll affect a bunch of our users. That's exactly what we don't want, especially with an application that is helping to secure your money. The last thing we need is you having issues. So we do try our best to solve those as quickly as possible. But yeah, in general,
somewhere around 100,000 active.
See, but that's just Android too.
Well,
so
I mean, but not everybody who downloads it actually ends up with an account. I think we're in like the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands range for like active accounts per month.
And that's just Edge, right? Or is that?
I think that's both Edge and Android, because they're the same accounts.
And Airbits. Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because for those of you who haven't been familiar with Edge for that long, we had a precursor app that was on iOS and Android, but it only did Bitcoin. It was called Airbits. That was actually the name of our company before we rebranded to Edge about, 8 months ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say in general, the feeling, if I were just to not even look at statistics, the feeling of what I can see going on is that we are picking up speed, and that's fun. Puts a smile on my face and gives me a little bit more incentive to log in an extra hour here and there to get things done. Especially when it's your friends that start using it, then it's okay. Now it reflects on you. So if your friends say, "Oh, this app sucks," and all of a sudden in your group of friends, it's like, "Oh, here's Kylan. He makes these apps that aren't very great," but it's been quite the opposite. Like all my friends are using it. My mom and dad use it, so I even more incentive to make sure it works well, right?
Yeah,
I don't want people in my family or group of friends losing money, especially not on my hands. Yeah. Let's see here.
Well, going forward with the question that we were talking about earlier, like what is the future of cryptocurrencies?
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked.
Again, science fiction-y here,
Science fiction-y question.
I'm
here.
cool with that.
Yeah. So what happens when we go to multiple planets?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking about it, and I have a feeling maybe you've thought more about it, but my initial reaction was like, okay, since the speed of light is fast on Earth, but when you're going across like solar systems and then intergalactic eventually, you're talking about a really long time. So it kind of reminded me of like different like you could have different currencies on different planets, maybe different blockchains. They could actually be maybe even the same currency, but different blockchains, right? And then they would communicate to actually settle, I would think.
Yeah. So I would expect something exactly like what you said. So it'll be like Earth coin and Mars coin. Now, we don't know what Earth coin's going to be. Is it going to be EOS? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be Ethereum?
Is Mars coin due to an ICO?
Yeah.
I need to know.
Right. So we don't know what coin is going to be the Earth coin, which one's going to be the Mars coin. But there will probably be a currency. And the reason I think a currency is because exchanging is friction.
Right.
So if there could be one currency, if there's technologically one way to do it, right, that's going to be the same,
one coin to rule them all,
then that's going to be what everyone's going to flock to eventually, because there's no barrier to it not being that way.
So do you think that you'll end up with the one world currency sort of thing?
It's more possible with crypto than it was with, say, national currencies.
Right.
Obviously, national currency is going to be pegged to a nation.
Right.
Like when Zimbabwe blew up a couple of years ago, they had a hyperinflation. Their own currency became worthless. One of the things they started using was dollars, because dollars are everywhere.
Right.
And so if there wasn't national currencies, if they all failed to exist, the dollar would simply remain, and that would be the one world currency.
Yeah. So then obviously it does beg the question of, are you able to make a currency that can be maybe dominant or preferred, that can be like both transparent but also private? Like some of these things really don't jive too well either.
Yeah. And there's an interesting calculation. A guy called Jonas Vermorel did it, where he said, well, how many people on Earth? There's about 10 billion, roughly, give or take.
Right.
And say they do about 10 transactions per day. If we were to put that all on a blockchain, we'd be talking about terabyte blocks.
Right.
So
blocks, not blockchain.
That
Blocks.
10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then he did a bunch of calculations to say, is this feasible or not? And it turns out it's not that unfeasible. It'd be like one rack of equipment, and it costs about $5,000 a month to run, including amortization of the equipment costs. So it's conceivable that some kind of currency, like a Ripple or whatever, could be that big and still work. There's people always concerned about centralization and a number of other things, block propagation times, whatever. But at least conceptually, a currency could get that big and still operate.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got competing currencies. It'll be interesting to see whether anyone can reestablish any sort of dominance that's similar to how Bitcoin was in the early cryptocurrency days. That remains to be seen. Let's see here. What else we got?
So, but for the swap between the two planets, it would probably takes about 10 minutes to send a message one way to Earth to Mars.
Right.
So you would have, if you wanted to move coins from planet to planet, it'd take a while to do that, but you could do it over the course of a day.
Yeah, it's funny. 10 minutes is like about as long as it takes for a block.
Yeah.
At least for Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, that's, I'll be honest, if they start to inhabit Mars, I will not be one of the first ones there. I have friends that are like, yeah, it'd be so cool to be one of the first astronauts. Like, dude, you would be there almost by yourself with people that you would probably eventually get sick of. There would be no way back. So if you guys want to go to Mars, go ahead. You can use Mars coin. I'm cool with Earth coin. Let's see what we got here. How familiar are you with profitability on...
So this question is basically, why would I put money into the Lightning Network, basically? So I'm not sure how familiar people are with the Lightning, how it works, but the way it works is two people agree to set up a channel, which means they can pass money back and forth between them.
Right.
So one side or the other, or both, puts up collateral.
Right.
And then that's the amount of money they can...
It's like filling up your wallet or something.
Right. So
topping it up.
If I think I'm going to go to Starbucks and spend $50 this month, I can load up a Lightning channel to Starbucks with $50 in it. And then as I buy coffee, that balance kind of goes down and the money transfers to Starbucks. Now, the idea with Lightning is, okay, so I set up a channel with every single merchant I go to. I got to go with grocery stores, coffee shop, other coffee no. So I set up one channel, and then I can pay through Starbucks. I can say, Starbucks, can you forward the money to, the grocery store?
And it's useful because a lot of people already have channels set up with Starbucks because a lot of people go to Starbucks, right?
Assuming. This is hypothetical, right?
Yeah,
Starbucks does not support cryptocurrency at this time, which would be awesome, but hypothetically, right?
Right.
So the question is, well, that means that Starbucks now has to have an open channel with the grocery store. Otherwise, they can't pass money back and forth.
Right.
How much collateral are they going to put on there? How much business goes between Starbucks and the grocery store? Thousands of dollars, tens, what?
Right.
So there's going to be the edge nodes, which would be like private wallets like you and me, like individuals with their phones. And there's going to be like the mesh
hubs
that connects them all together.
Right.
And so if I'm going to operate one of these hubs, I should be incentivized somehow to do so. How much money am I expecting to earn compared to like investing it in something else?
Yeah. So they're going to charge some sort of fee? Is that the idea?
They're going to charge some fees. So right now the fees are 1 Satoshi per transaction, which is stupidly low. Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm putting up one Bitcoin, that's like what, $6,000 today, something like that. I don't know. The price has been going up and down like mad these past couple days.
Right.
If I put that money into a bank account, I could earn interest at say 0.1%.
Right.
So I would expect like $6 a month, or 1% or whatever. Right. I would think I would expect about $6 a month in fees for that one thing. At Satoshi per transaction, that's like 100 million transactions or some stupidly huge number. I don't even want to calculate because it's too big.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound very profitable is what you're saying?
So I think what's going to happen is, my prediction would be that if Lightning Network works, and this kind of forms up as an economically motivated, not just like as a hobbyist project, but as like a real thing, that you're going to see Satoshi, the transaction fees on Lightning be like cents.
Right.
Because otherwise, no one's making any money off their invested coins that are just sitting there that should be earning interest or doing something else.
Yeah, but if it ends up being too much, then people would be like, okay, well, why would I use Lightning Network when I can just use like another blockchain or standard on-chain settlement?
Right. So the fact that Lightning requires a lot of collateral, it could be a downside and make it economically more expensive because people are expecting higher fees to pay for their investment in channels than, say, the on-chain fees of like some more scale on chain type of chain,
Right.
or like Ripple or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it is this weird thing where it's like, oh, well, if a hub has a bunch of people who've opened channels with it, then it makes transacting between the nodes, the edges, easier. But then your initial thought is like, well, isn't that centralization? So that's kind of that big question that people are. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues that they're debating over, right?
Hmm. I think there's actually concern in the Bitcoin community, especially the BTC community, that we don't mind centralization of Lightning, because Lightning is like a second layer. Like if Lightning gets corrupted and centralized, the banks take it over, that's fine,
Go back on chain.
because you still have Bitcoin BTC being pure and uncensored, and everybody's running full nodes, and we're guarding against governments and all that stuff.
Right.
I can see that argument. I can see how that makes sense. So,
Right.
so in that sense, maybe you're okay with centralization, and you don't care because Bitcoin itself is still good.
Or maybe it's kind of like incorruptible. You know, maybe it's something where cryptographically those nodes, those hubs can't really do much to screw anyone
They
over.
can actually do a lot. So,
Can they really?
So if I've opened a Lightning hub to Starbucks, and Starbucks decides that they don't approve of anything that has to do with sending money to some country, right? They can just block all those payments.
Right.
And so I'm going to have to go around Starbucks, open another channel to some other place to
Well,
get
now how could they? Is the IP address part of the transaction? Is that something?
whatever. Maybe they don't like Julian Assange. They're going to block everything that goes to WikiLeaks. Whatever.
Okay. So you're saying they would block things going to a specific address?
An address or a range of
Okay,
addresses,
okay.
or whatever. However they do the routing, they can figure out. Oh, well, that route goes to a place we don't like. We're just going to not accept any funds that go through hops that go through.
So they can see enough into the transaction that they can discern something about it.
Right.
Okay.
There's risks that there's centralization that could cause censorship.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Right. The government could say, well, if you want to run a Lightning full node, we're okay with that. That's fine. But, if you're running
These
an
ones are
IP address in the
blacklisted.
United States, then you also have to, follow these rules.
Yeah. It's like if you're routing one to someone in Iran, like it's a
Yeah,
no-go.
if
Or
it's sanctions against those guys, can't do that.
And think about how difficult it would be to do that as a hub. It would be very cost prohibitive to try to figure out. I mean, you'd have to have a whole department trying to figure out which IP addresses or which public Bitcoin addresses belong to quote unquote bad actors, right?
And some people say, well, that can't happen because a node can be anonymous. Yes, but it's anonymous, but it's somebody who has thousands of dollars to invest in a channel. So,
There's only so many people too.
yeah,
like,
right. It's going to be.
oh, look at all this traffic on their internet. Wonder what they're doing there, right?
Yeah. And you kind of have to, if you want to be part of the mesh, like if you just want to be part of an anonymous guy on the edge, no one has to know who you are. But if you're
Right.
part of the mesh, people are routing through you. There's some sense of an identity.
They can figure it out.
Yeah. It's very different from running a Bitcoin full node where you're just passing data through. You're not actually participating in the transactions.
Yep.
So I don't know. These are all theoretical things because Lightning is not a full scale, production ready, economically sustainable setup just yet. So.
Yeah, it's coming along though. So the days of it sounding like it's just far off science fiction are starting to come to a close. People are actually doing transactions with them, with the Lightning Network. So I think probably in the next 6 to 12 months, it should be pretty interesting to see how it comes along. Let's see here. Want to take one more?
One more quick one because we're at 45 minutes.
Yeah, I
This
know.
is a
We are long-winded. We have a lot to say. What do you think? Let's choose one here.
I want a partner to make my own white label wallet, support a token, get Edge login for my app that I'm building. How do I get in touch?
You want to take this?
info@edge.app is the official email address.
info@edge.app. Notice we're not using edgesecure.co anymore. I think those emails will probably still forward to the right place, but edge.app is our new website. And we prefer it over the old one. But yeah, I mean, if you need some sort of wallet or account, how would you describe it?
So everything we've built,
Because this is kind of like your baby, right?
everything we've built here at Edge is open source. So you can see the source code to our wallet. You can see the source code to our Bitcoin engine, our Ethereum engine, our Monero and our Ripple engines.
Yep.
You can see the whole thing. And so if you're building any technology in the space, whether that be a wallet or you need some component for your website, like we've got all that stuff. And we are very happy to work with people and get that stuff available so you can use it in your app as well. So reach out to us and we'll try to help you out.
Yeah, and hopefully if all goes well, I mean, we're already starting to see, it seems like this is for white label. Yeah. Definitely the number of partners that we have been receiving, it seems like it's been going up in a healthy manner, which is always exciting.
Yeah.
We want our software as out there as possible, and it seems like so far our partners are enjoying it, and it's working the way it should. So that's what we do here. We try to give our users and our partners software that works well for their purposes. Okay, so I think that's about it for today. Just remember, like I said earlier, that we do this every Friday at noon Pacific time. We come on live and we take your questions and comments. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments you want to give to us, we are Edge Secure on Twitter. If you look up Edge Wallet on YouTube, you can find us. On Facebook, I believe we're under Edge Wallet. And anything else?
Well, I think that about does it.
Yeah, if you haven't downloaded the app, it's on iOS and Android. We are coming out with another update within the next week or so, and we have some exciting features that we will be adding, so you're going to want to check those out. Until then, guys, see you next Friday.
All right. Take it easy.